Let the fetting begin. In just a matter of hours, thousands will kick off this year's Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, 3 days of concerts, parades, and partying. But despite now in its 5th year, with no signs of letting up, leading clergymen insist change will come to what one has unshamedly bashed as unbridled debauchery, wanton lawlessness, and a dumping of moral sewage on the streets. With the story, we go to our BJ McDermott.
The Bahamas Christian Council's not at all budging on its stance that Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival challenges the country's moral, ethical, cultural traditions and practices, particularly those enshrined in the Constitution, promoting the Bahamas as a country of Christian values. Take, for instance, the Road Fever Parade. Council President Apostle Jcntvnews reasons that with a mixture of men and women flaunting near-naked bodies, engaging in sexual contact with event participants, and the open flow of alcohol, it's a ticking time bomb waiting to explode into a dangerous series of circumstances. An outspoken Kingdom Life senior pastor Cedric Moss, who has strongly objected to the 3-day fetting from day one, adamantly agrees.
If I'm out of touch, and if I'm wrong, and if the overwhelming majority of Bahamians believe that what takes place in Carnival is standard decency and that's okay and it should be allowed, then it should be allowed. Government has every right on that basis to give out those permits, put the police there to guard them as they do the stuff they do. That's the way it should be in a democracy. What I'm saying to you is that does not represent the democracy. That represents a bankrupt, bad idea from the Christie-led PLP administration that they foisted on the Bahamian people that the current administration does not have the courage to stop.
But what's the difference between what happens during Carnival and Junkanoo? Pastor Moss insists he's long stopped attending Junkanoo parades because of the same level of vulgarity.
They call Junkanoo a family event. It's not a family event. I checked out on Junkanoo and I saw a woman gyrating on the face of a man on Bay Street. That's more than 20 years ago. So the same applies to that. And see, the thing is this. We have to come to a sensible place of determining how do we live in shared space. You cannot do what you want in shared space. Do what you want in your private space where it doesn't affect the others in public space.
Apostle Fernando further argues that if some of the behavior that occurs during Road Fever has to take place in any other arena, persons would be arrested.
We've got to make a stance that either we enforce the laws or we do not enforce the laws. By next year, we're going to have a real conversation about what vulgarity can happen, and if it's lockable, if you can be arrested first in another place, we can't have it on full display on our streets. And as the populace, we get to decide what takes place, and we need to have that conversation.
The council is pushing for social stakeholders to take a serious look at the staging of Bahamas Carnival to determine if this is the kind of event Bahamians wish to allow, if Road Fever is in line with the laws regarding public nudity, and if it is beneficial to the health and well-being of the country. Reporting for Jcnnews, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Now, Bishop Fernando also at the time denied claims that the council has failed to address more pressing matters facing the country. The president insists press statements have been issued on a number of issues, but the decision to air them is not up to him. Now, as for the Carnival Corporation, the government so far received 2 records from the cruise line in the wake of a local investigation being launched and talks starting between the two amid reports of sewer being dumped in Bahamian waters. According to Transport Minister Renward Wells, the first record gives a description of all incidents caused by Carnival vessels in Bahamian waters, regardless of the vessel's registry. The other addresses all incidents of Carnival's Bahamas registered vessels, regardless of location.
We are processing, cross-referencing, and investigating this information using all of our resources. We will assess the technical and operational details of all key incidences. 5, Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General's office has engaged to assess the extent of criminality in these actions and to determine what remedies are available based upon Bahamian environmental protection laws and any applicable international maritime conventions and the law of the sea.
The update also came with the renewed assurance that no ship privileged to enter Bahamian waters should discharge anything harmful.
Our environment, our waters will not be compromised. And two, all ships trading in or passing through Bahamian waters will be held in all respects to the highest international standards of conduct. We will assure that the interests of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, its people, and its precious marine resources are in all respects protected, and we will institute whatever systems and controls are necessary to secure our interests, and particularly in these circumstances, to seek compensation or recompense for any damage which may be found to have been caused to our nation's ecosystem.
Carnival has pleaded guilty to charges of illegally dumping oily bilge water between the 7-year period of 2005 and 2013. It was subsequently slapped with a whopping $40 million fine and a 5-year probation during that period. The company pledged to commit no further violation of any environmental law and to implement a broad environmental plan. Carnival execs, meantime, hoping not to jeopardize its long-standing relationship with the Bahamas. By the same token, it's renewing its commitment to protecting the environment. Carnival Corporation's Senior Vice President of Global Port and Destination Development, Giora Israel, is in a release stressed that often Carnival's internal policies are even more restrictive than applicable regulations. For instance, MARPOL regulations require discharges occur greater than 3 miles from land, while Carnival's policies reportedly dictate 12 miles. Mr. Israel goes on to point out that all cases were self-identified and self-reported and followed established and accepted reporting protocol, that all discharges from Carnival ships were fully treated prior to the release, posing no threat or harm to the marine environment based on independent studies that 2017 incidents represented a very small fraction of the total transits for that year, and that since the end of 2017, there has only been one instance of an improper discharge, which it accepts is one too many. Carnival, as a company, said Mr. Israel would not intentionally or knowingly violate the sanctity of Bahamian environment, for which it has the utmost respect. Said to be focused more than ever on its environmental stewardship in recent years, Carnival has reportedly instituted a number of changes and improvements on its ship operations. Mr. Israel says this includes additional training and overnight additional spare parts and new technology. Carnival's constructing the largest private port facility in the world in Grand Bahama. Its new port is expected to have everything 100% recycled. The facility will also feature a rainwater collection system and use solar power whenever possible. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.